Good evening. My name is Chantel Wright, and I serve as chair of the DC Public Charter School Board. Welcome to this month's board meeting. I would like to welcome my fellow board members, Vice Chair Jim Sandman, Treasurer Carissa Stanley Beatty, Secretary Shakora Adamafania, and Leah Crucy. This month's theme is Fall into Accountability. For us, accountability is not a gotcha. It is about a guarantee to families that schools are keeping their promises and putting students first. This commitment feels especially important given what's happening in our city right now. In recent weeks, we've seen major changes in public safety, a federal presence, the National Guards on our streets, reports of ICE officers near or in schools, and checkpoints in our communities. These developments have created real fear for families and real disruptions for students, affecting their routines, transit, and trust, all of which impact school communities profoundly. At the same time, our charter sector has shown resilience and progress. Test scores are moving up for many of our students, and while we still have work to do, the growth is steady. Several schools celebrated strong DC CAPE results, reflecting the dedication of students, educators, and school leaders across the city. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the results this evening. The DC Charter School Alliance, our partner, hosted the 2025 Attendance Summit, bringing together more than 30 public charter schools, sending a clear signal that attendance, engagement, and family school partnership are front and center this school year. And I had the privilege of moderating the Public Charter School Safety Town Hall on September 4th. Families came together to hear critical information and learn about resources in light of the heightened law enforcement presence. We used that time to reaffirm a core value. DC public charter schools are and will always be safe and welcoming places for every student and every family. So tonight, as we focus on building stronger relationships with families, schools, and the broader public, let's remember this: accountability is not a punishment. It is indeed a promise that every student will be safe, supported, and seen, and that every family can trust the schools that they choose. Thank you for being here this evening. I look forward to our discussion and the work ahead. I will now turn it over to our Executive Director, Dr. Michelle Walker-Davis.
Good evening, and thank you, Chair Wright, for your thoughtful words and for grounding us in this month's theme, Fall into Accountability. As the Chair said, accountability isn't about gotcha. It's about a guarantee to families that every student in every school is learning in a safe, supportive, and quality environment. That's the heart of our work at DC PCSB. This fall, we're putting that into action in 3 ways. First, we're fully implementing Aspire, our academic accountability system this school year. Aspire is one of the tools we use to guide our academic oversight, and we believe it's good for students, good for schools, and good for education. Tonight, we're officially launching Aspire Adoption. Schools that previously used the Performance Management Framework, or PMF, as their charter goals now have 2 options. They can either adopt Aspire as their charter goals, or submit newly created custom goals. Each school has until April 1, 2026 to make this choice. No matter which path they take, all schools will monitor, report, and validate Aspire results. Choosing to adopt Aspire saves schools valuable time and capacity by avoiding the need to track 2 separate accountability measures, Aspire and the newly created custom goals. We're excited to see schools take this next step. Second, we're strengthening our financial oversight, making sure our standards are clear, fair, and sustainable for the long run. And third, we are reinforcing our compliance oversight. As required by the DC School Reform Act, we monitor health and safety and governance. These checks protect students and build trust with families. Together, these efforts strengthen oversight, protect students, and build trust with families while deepening our partnership with school leaders. Tonight, you'll hear a presentation that will give an overview of our oversight. This will pull together how we approach academics, finance, and compliance, and explain how accountability done well supports schools and strengthens outcomes for students. I also want to highlight that September is Attendance Awareness Month. We know showing up is the first step to learning. While the start of the school year brought challenges, we saw school leaders working with community partners to ensure students and their families had access to resources and support. Our school year 2024-2025 attendance and discipline report, which we submitted to DC Council last month and is available on our website, shows that truancy and chronic absenteeism are declining, but in-seat attendance dipped slightly from last year. We'll continue monitoring these attendance trends, and we plan to revise our attendance and truancy policy this year to help schools address or mitigate attendance issues earlier in the school year. One quick note, you may remember, board members, that in the past years, we shared monthly updates on our strategic roadmap around this time. Since we launched the second phase of the roadmap this past January, we're shifting gears. We'll share more meaningful progress updates in the next calendar year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walker Davis. Before we begin, I want to note that we were initially going to discuss a request from Kingsman PCS to amend its educational approach, but the school has withdrawn its request for future consideration. In case there's anyone on the call who's waiting to hear discussion of that item, please note that it will not be on tonight's agenda. Board members, there are no speakers registered to give public comment tonight. So we'll move on to our next on our public meeting agenda, we have several charter amendment requests. I will yield the floor to Bijan Lane, specialist within our Sector Planning and Compliance School Performance Department, to introduce the first request from Academy of Hope Public Charter School. I would also like to invite representatives from the school to provide remarks regarding this amendment request. Ms. Johnson, Michael Durant, Holly Ann Frezzo Moore, Tiffany Godbot, Brianna Cobbins, Joy Bentley Phillips, and Patrina Clark. Please elevate them. And Bijan, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Wright. Hello, my name is Bijan Lane, and I am a specialist in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will hear from Academy of Hope Adult Public Charter School regarding its request to amend its charter agreement. The school proposes increasing its enrollment ceiling by 500 students over the span of 3 years, raising the total from 1,000 students to 1,500 beginning in school year 2026-27. Representatives from the school are available to answer the board's questions.
Welcome. If you are with Academy of Hope, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll begin to let you in.
Good evening.
Good evening. We're still bringing up your team.
We have a PowerPoint. Are we able to share screen?
Jonah, can we give them sharing privileges?
If not, we can send it after. Just let us know when you're ready.
Yep, we're just trying to make sure we have all of your team.
Okay,
Saw
just so I know-
Michael. Oh, okay, so Michael is on, his camera's just not on. So I don't think
It's mostly just, I think, Leicester and I.
oh, it's just the two of you? Okay, then
Oh,
let's
we're-
go.
Our team is here. Important.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all here. We roll deep.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
You can
Well,
go ahead. We'll give you time to present.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, Chair, Chair Wright and members of the board and PCSB staff. My name is Leicester Johnson, and I'm the CEO of Academy of Hope Adult Public Charter School. Tiffany, we'll go right to I wanted to start a little bit. Academy of Hope, as you know, we've had our 10-year review last year about the same time. Tiffany, go back to the other one, sorry. And we're thrilled. Thank you for having us here tonight to share more about our enrollment ceiling increase. I wanted to just share a little bit about who we serve. I won't go through this. It's a lot of data, but in general, Academy of Hope serves the full range of adult learners, from beginning literacy to individuals returning to school to get their high school diploma, or coming to us to reskill and upskill through our career academies. On average, individuals coming through our high school credentialing program generally are reading at a 6th grade or below, and an average math or numeracy skills at a 5th grade or below. So we are really working with learners, the full continuum of learners enrolled in our program. Next slide, Tiffany. So why an enrollment ceiling increase now? As Bijan mentioned, we're requesting to raise our enrollment ceiling from 1,000 learners to 1,500 learners. And this expansion is not aspirational. It's necessary for us to provide additional seats. Why? Demand is rising in our Ward 5, from Wards 5, 7, and 8. We've seen a 33% increase in our applications. Just this year alone, on our 3rd day of fall enrollment, we've already hit the 1,000 enrollment ceiling. We've seen a significant increase in our workforce enrollments for individuals upskilling or reskilling. We grew when we started in 2017, 2018 from 47 learners to last year at over 300 learners in our 7 pathways, workforce pathways. And we are running a hybrid, both hybrid in-person program model to help address this demand. Sorry. Okay, next slide, Tiffany. So our proposed growth focused on phased and aligned to city workforce and education needs. As I mentioned, we're not expanding grade levels, but our goal is to increase high quality seats. Just to give you a little bit about our performance, and this is from our 10-year review, Academy of Hope, we surpassed our performance expectations, scoring 57% on the PMF and exceeding sector averages in all 4 key areas. 94% of workforce learners earned high-level certifications in healthcare and IT versus 64% of the sector. 80% of AOH learners earned a high school diploma versus 69% sector-wide. 86% of AOH learners passed a GED subject test versus 78% subject-wide. And then our persistence was 68.8%, 16 percentage points higher than the sector average. So while we received a level 2 in modeling, a level 2 in modeling, our schools should be considered replicable. I'm sorry, got my things a little mixed up here. Next slide, Tiffany, please. So I'd like to speak to the deeper impact of our measures. We've just completed our FY 20
I am so sorry, my slides, my notes got mixed up here. So let me just speak to student progress. So I just spoke to you about our 10-year review, student progress. So speaking to this slide, our student progress, over the years since COVID, we've seen, of course, we saw a major dip in our EFL gains during that period, but we've had a steady incline or steady increasing EFL gains through the recovery. And we're on par with national rates and even exceeded in the national performance in school year 22-23. Next slide, Tiffany. On earned secondary credentials, again, you can see that we are recovering. We were at a high in school year 2018-19 with 53 graduates, or 75% pass rate on with the GED and NEDP, or earned credential rate. We saw a huge dip during COVID, like many other schools, but as you can see, we're on the recovery. We're at an 82% earned credential rate. So we are, we're providing quality education. We're helping adults to earn their high school credentials at a very high rate. And then high-level certifications. And our high-level certifications, our CNA program has the highest pass rate in the city. School year 23-24, we had a 100% pass rate on the CNA exam, 77% pass rate across all of our certification exams, and a 68% increase in the number of learners served from 20 to 21, school year 2021 to present, and that's in our workforce programs. We started with a low number of 47 and have consistently increased our enrollment in our workforce or career academy programs.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, Tiffany, sorry. And I'm excited to share that we've been doing a lot more research on our impact, and in particular around workforce and wages, and doing a study recently on how much are our graduates making and what is the impact for individuals participating in our workforce program. Learners who complete our workforce programs on average see an average wage increase of $5 an hour, or at least that's about $10,000 annually. Many go on to earn over $21 per hour, and 100% of our healthcare learners are employed within field within 90 days of completing our program. I'd like to share, these are not abstract numbers. These are lives transformed, and these are outcomes that we believe that DC needs more of. And just to share a real example that happened recently in the spring, we recently partnered with Accenture and the DC Tech Hub and a cybersecurity apprenticeship program. On April 1st, we sent 21 learners into this apprenticeship program, earning $60,000 a year plus benefits. After 1 full year and completion of that program, learners are guaranteed employment and could earn up to $100,000 in earnings with Accenture or other Accenture companies or other employers in cybersecurity. AOH learners in this first cohort make up nearly 50% of the learners who were selected to participate in this apprenticeship. So 21 of our 50 learners, and 77% of the learners that we referred to the apprenticeship were accepted into the apprenticeship model. So we are making a difference, and we are helping learners to move along a trajectory to build wealth for their families and their community. Our learners are stepping into careers, not just jobs, and are reshaping the futures for their families and their communities. With the board's approval, we can ensure more learners or more residents, particularly from wards 5, 7, and 8, gain access to credentials, skills, and careers that lead to long-term economic mobility. We are ready to grow, and we have the infrastructure and the financial models and the results to do it well. And I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany Godbout, our COO, to talk a little bit about our financial readiness.
Thank you, Leicester. I'm Tiffany Godbout. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Academy of Hope, and our expansion plan is driven by clear demand and proven operational capacity. As Leicester mentioned, we hit our enrollment ceiling on day 3 of the fall term this year. And over the past year, we've held learner town halls, actually 2 years, learner town halls, focus groups, and surveyed learners and staff as part of our strategic plan and middle states reaccreditation. This process allowed us to co-create goals with our community. And the number one goal of our adaptive plan was to expand seats. That was people had pointed out as the number one priority. And our internal survey showed staff and learner satisfaction to be over 94%. Externally, we've worked with the advisory neighborhood commissions, and 8C and 5C passed resolutions supporting our ceiling increase. And we received letters of support from Brighter Day Ministries, our other partner in our Ward 8 facility, and from our AOH learners who submitted public comments expressing their support for this growth. Our proposal aligns to PCSB's definition of conservative growth. We're planning for no more than 200 additional learners per year, no new grades, and no facilities dependency. Our hybrid in-person and evening models allow us to serve 1,500 learners at our existing sites. We are exploring a third Ward 8 location, but it is absolutely not required. And all of our financial modeling has been based on our current enrollment ceiling. We've also built the systems to scale responsibly, expanding our central office to add a chief human resource officer to develop a proactive talent strategy, stronger onboarding and leadership pipelines. And we've continued to invest in our student information system, cybersecurity, and information technology, as well as expanded student support and retention teams. Finally, and importantly, we're not seeking an enrollment increase to shore up finances. Even without an increase, our no expansion model projects consistent annual surpluses at $6.9 million 5-year cumulative net total asset gain, and well over 220 days of cash on hand. The base case obviously further improves efficiency, and the contingency case still preserves over half a year of cash, demonstrating resilience. In short, demand is high, community support is strong, systems are ready, and finances are sound. We're prepared to grow with quality, care, and community at the center. Leicester? You're muted, Leicester.
Leicester, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. As you've heard, Academy of Hope is not just ready to grow, we're ready to scale what works. High quality, high impact adult education that lifts entire families and communities. Our performance speaks for itself. We've exceeded sector benchmarks, built robust systems for scale, and demonstrated strong community and ANC support. We know the demand is real, we know the opportunity is urgent, and we've laid the financial and operational groundwork to grow responsibly with our means and with no compromise to quality. On behalf of our board, staff, and learners, we respectfully ask the board to approve our request to increase our enrollment ceiling to 1,500. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen. All right, now we want to spend some time actually engaging. I'm going to open it up to board members for questions, starting with Secretary Shakura Adamafania.
Thank you. Good evening, Academy of Hope team. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your work. It was really heartening to read through your data, celebrated your 10-year renewal, so excited to chat with you tonight. I kind of want to pick up on a point that you all started in the presentation, just around the challenges that you're anticipating. I'm really curious to hear, I've heard how you are uh, proactively planning for the growth by hiring a chief human resource officer and investing in the IT infrastructure. But would love to hear, and with all expansion, there comes challenges. And I know that you all are interested in maintaining high standards for your students and staff and operations. So would love to hear about other challenges that you anticipate that you will have to address. And then I have one more question.
Mhm. Yeah, I think growth, anytime there's significant growth or additional learners, recruiting qualified teachers, like many other schools, um, will be a challenge. And we are really a unique space in that finding highly qualified teachers to work with adult learners. We believe it takes about 3 years for someone who's transitioning from K-12 over to adult ed to really get up and going, 3 to 4 years, to really understand what it means to be an adult educator and understanding things like CASAs. It's an entirely new language, EFL gains. So I think teacher recruitment to deal with the demand, the growing enrollment. We're also finding some challenges around, and I probably should have just let Dr. Durant take this one, challenges around industry professionals and just the cost, salary demands for nurse instructors. We have a robust IT academy. Those are some of the things that I see would be some of the bigger challenges, just making sure that we're able to get highly qualified staff on board. Durant, Tiffany, I'm sure I can probably go down a long list of those.
I would just add to what you said. I agree completely. From an infrastructure perspective, if you look at our trajectory over the last since 2020 or school year 21, we've grown every year about 150 to 200 learners. So we're used to the growing pains, I think. So we've had a lot of them we've gotten through, and then some we're still building on. And that's where we've highlighted some of the investments that we've made on ways we can communicate better across campus with the student information system and some of those infrastructure upgrades.
Thank you. And my final question, building on your point around teacher recruitment and staff recruitment, would love to just hear you describe your plan to address all that and just again to ensure adequate teacher recruitment, retention, and ultimately support for your learners.
I think oh, go ahead, Durant. I'll let you take that one. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to pretty much go back off of what Tiffany was talking about when she talked about the operational effectiveness. I was just going to talk about how we've grown significantly in the academic area as well. Seeing 33% significant growth of learners each year, and while maintaining a strong academic program is nothing short of just a lot of hard work that's coming from inside the classroom. I think that one of the greatest things that I feel about us is making sure that academic serves as the foundation for our learners, because it's just so important for our learners to be able to see success. And I think that us as an organization, we're committed to making sure that we continue to build out our programs. So bringing in the CHRO has kind of like really be able to shore up our hiring model to make sure that we're not only just bringing learners in and staff in that can just fulfill a space, but also making sure we're bringing in quality candidates that can also get our learners through the pipeline. We talked about continuously growing some of our areas of significant stresses, which is having learners coming to us that's not necessarily prepared for what it is that they are trying to seek. And one of the things we want to make sure we do is do not turn the doors to anyone. And so we've been able to significantly build a program out that has allowed for learners to be able to navigate those spaces while still maintaining what is necessarily needed for them to be successful in navigating going through our high level certifications as well as our high school credential programs. And so I think that for us as an organization, we have been truly just focused on, and again, laser focused on making sure that we build everything around the Aspire framework, making sure that the Aspire framework is like, you know what I'm saying, that living thing that guides the work that we do, but also making sure that we provide the infrastructure for not only for our learners to be able to be successful in the classroom, but also successful outside the classroom. So when we talk about being able to build the support systems and academics, we're also talking about that wraparound services that we provide to our learners. Because one of the things that's important is that when learners leave us, we know that they may not necessarily be ready. So this past year, we were able to, last 2 years, we were able to build out what we call our Hope Forward program. So it's a play on our school name, which is Hope, but it's forward because those learners have already passed along the process. They've graduated, they are in our process. And so we want those learners to be able to continue to press forward. And so we have provided them with the landscape of support outside of after they leave us. And because we don't want to put them out there by themselves. We know how important it is for you to have a support system, and we know how great a support system that we have internally. So I think that those are some of the things that we have laid out as a foundation to be able to make sure that we are hiring great teachers, that our learners are always going to be at the forefront of our thinking when it comes to academics, and making sure that the infrastructure that we provide is something that is going to be able to live inside of our school, but things that they can take beyond our school walls because we know that we're trying to prepare them for what is their next assignment in life.
Thank you very much, Chair Wright.
Yeah. So before I go to the next board member, I think I want to follow up a little on Secretary for Adam Afania's question. So there's no doubt about what you all do and how you do it and the results that you've received with your learners. The question though is how are you going to find those teachers? So if we go by what you said, Leicester, you just said it takes 3 to 4 years for someone particularly transitioning from pre-K 3 to 12. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of schools of education that prepare adult teachers, right? So if you have that level of transition time that you need with teachers, what does that look like then bringing on? I understand you've historically brought on anywhere from 100 to 150 students at a time. So that number might not seem as daunting, but you're adding that to an already capacity filled school with teachers who take 3 to 4 years to actually get ready in order to produce the results you just talked about, Michael. So what does that plan look like? Do you have any kind of residency teacher program going on now? Are you thinking about that as you're talking about increasing your numbers to scale? Talk to us specifically about how you're going to find those teachers to meet such a large number in what looks like a short period of time.
Okay. So I want to say, just from what Leicester spoke about from 3 to 4 years, I think she was talking about for you to fully understand, I guess, the landscape, because ultimately when we hire our teachers, we are bringing qualified teachers into the building. So I want that to, and I think that it really starts with the onboarding. I think that when you're onboarding teachers, is basically allowing them to understand, like you pretty much what the mission is, what your goals are, have a clear understanding of what it is that we're trying to achieve. I think that's the key. I think that when you bring learners through the pipeline, especially in adult education, and if they've been working in K through 12, you got to get them familiar with this Aspire framework. They have to understand what we're working towards in our day to day. They got to have a clear understanding of what it takes in order for them to be able to be deemed successful, right? I think that in those years of being a part of the process, those learners, those teachers begin to buy into the process because from the beginning, we lay the foundation of what it is going to be like as an adult educator and what is the requirement and what it is that we need for you as an adult educator to be a part of this process. The hiring really starts from being able to go to recruitment fairs, being able to get learners and teachers that are really interested in working with this population of learners. I think it's a very niche population. However, there's a lot of people who's committed to wanting to be a part of this process, and I think that being able to have those really structured interview processes where our interview process is not just me going out and recruiting someone. We have a very structured interview process where you are coming in the door, you're meeting with the person that's the hiring manager, then you have a search committee that you meet with, then you also come and do a demonstration lesson not only for the teachers but also for the learners, and then we bring you on for the final interview with the person that's going to be bringing you on. So the people that's coming through the door, they've been through a vetted process. We're making sure that they understand what it is that we require, and I think that that's one of the things that kind of like helps us with the onboarding, but we are definitely looking at figuring out how we can maybe tap into the UDCs and different places where they have those adult education programs, and also looking to teachers who are looking to look at adult education as their new focus.
So just,
Okay.
yeah, adding, yes, we have a chief human resources officer who is really building out this plan for us. Do we have something in place today? No, but we do know what those numbers would look like. We know the teacher ratios. We know what the core content is that they need to know before they step into a classroom around adult ed. Oh, and there's Brianna. There's our COO. But yes, we are building out a plan to get to get the numbers of teachers that we have, and looking at teacher-student ratios, and doing some of the salary studies, making sure they're competitive. Bree, do you want to say anything quickly on that?
Sure, no worries. Good evening, everyone. As Leicester and my colleagues have explained, one of our biggest priorities in our strategic plan is developing a talent strategy to support the 1,500 learners. That is going to begin with us building a robust staffing model. That staffing model will be based on teacher to learner ratios, being able to look at how we schedule classes from the master schedule, planning ahead of time with staffing, and then being able to understand what those staffing numbers look like. We do want to build residency programs with our local DC universities. Not only in education, adult education specifically, but education as well as through current internships that we are currently working through. So we currently have internship programs with Gallaudet University, and we're working along some other universities in the District of Columbia right now. More importantly, we're using the resources and tools around us within the public charter school. We're participating in the compensation studies. We're also looking at doing a biannual classification study to ensure that our position descriptions and our class series that we're actually hiring for are attracting the top talent, more specifically in the education area. But once we get into the education area, really looking at being able to bring on teachers who are focused on the adult learning model. We understand that that differs from the K-12. And so bringing K-12 teachers in, there is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's more so that we're looking for them to be dedicated to the mission. And then we are able to actually help them understand the system, the curriculum, and the trajectory of where our learners should land. So currently, right now, we are currently working on that staffing model. It is our hope to be able to have that finished within the first year of our strategic plan. And with that staffing model, we will start to step into staffing seasons in which we will be attending job fairs. We will be pushing out recruitments earlier ahead of the semesters, and really starting to get into the groundwork, ensuring that our compensation, our benefits, our compensation, our benefits are things that appeal to teachers in the education space in the District of Columbia.
Okay. Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Thank you, Chair Wright. I have a few questions. I'll start with my question for staff, and then I have a few questions for the LEA as well. For staff, I just wanted a point of clarification in the materials as it relates to this case. We make a statement on page 7 of the material that the 5-year base case budget reflects the LEA's continued economic viability in a scenario that assumes enrollment above the current 1,000 student enrollment ceiling. Is that tied to what they've proposed in terms of the increases, or what did we tie that viability assessment to?
Yes, thanks for the question. As you know, Treasurer Stanley Beatty and all, the SRA asks DC PCSB to close a school that's not economically viable. And so in an amendment request like this, where a school is asking to increase their enrollment, we are assessing those projections about whether or not they continue to be an economically viable institution. At this time, Academy of Hope has certainly shown us that they're economically viable at this time. Their job through the application is to say we can remain economically viable in several different scenarios as we grow. And our assessment, as outlined here, is that they can remain economically viable with their increased growth if you all choose to approve that.
Got it. Thank you, Will. That's helpful. So we tied it to what they've proposed is what you're perfect.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Question for the LEA team. I have a couple of them. First of all, thank you for the financial piece that you included in your overview. That was really helpful. I understand that there is no immediate plan per what you said to change, do something different with your facilities. I think you mentioned that there might be something that you may do in Ward 8, but that wasn't yet solidified. So I appreciate that. As it relates to your finances in general, though, can you talk a little bit about what impact the enrollment ceiling may have? If it's not facilities, is there some impact from staffing? Is there some impact from programmatic changes that you may need to do as it relates to increasing your learners? Just in general, how are you thinking about impacts to your finances?
So I think, thank you for the question. The biggest impact to financials, obviously, as we're increasing, if we don't do anything else with facilities, is our staffing, right? That's going to be the biggest growth area. Luckily, you know, that as our CHRO said, you know, we have the ability to scale up or down as needed. But there are facilities expenses, and they're modeled there, that we are planning to improve the facilities that we have, and potentially to, if we end up taking a third site, we have been modeling for that as well, but modeling it based on 1,000 learners. So that we're making sure that that we wouldn't be contingent upon this, because we have to make decisions based on what we actually have today. So the biggest impact would certainly be the facilities improvements, you know, adjusting our space to make sure that we can, you know, house everyone and give people study spaces, et cetera, and then our staffing. Those are the two biggest impacts to our financials.
Okay, so and thank you for that. So I just put the pieces together. It's not that you all aren't going to have potential changes to your facilities. What you're saying is that you're using the 1,000 learner model to be able to do. Perfect. I got it. Thank you for that. Next question is regarding your demand. You made a statement that there's continued high demand, and I also heard in your presentation that you quoted a 33% increase in applications was one of the statistics that you quoted. Are there other data points that you all are pulling from in order to substantiate your thought that high demand is there and persists? What are your other data points?
Sure. So some of it is exactly what we highlighted as far as like just the actual enrollment growth year over year. Our audited enrollment has continued to go up. But what we're looking at, I mentioned our investment in our student information system. We have a plethora of data. So we are looking at conversion rates of learners from first interest to application all the way through to attendance on the first day. And we're noticing that is increasing. We're at about 71% from application to first day of attendance. We're looking at statistics around re-enrollments. We're looking at intent to returns as one of our indicators, as our retention. We talked about persistence, which of course is pre-post CASAs, but we also are looking at, are people saying they're coming back in between semesters? So that's another indicator. And all of those are continuing to head in a positive direction. I think we mentioned that we've invested in our retention specialist as well to help mitigate. We have a student support team, but we've also invested in retention on the enrollment side to make sure people are getting touch points at different places between when they enroll and when they start with us. So those are the kinds of metrics that we're looking at. Then we have our enrollment, the phone ringing, our lists of people who are coming in. So we have our SIS is very, very robust in data. I see the assessors off.
And I will also external environment, the demand. If we're looking at unemployment rates, what's happening, what's potentially going to happen we've been trying to track of the folks who've been lost federal employment, what percent of those individuals are individuals without a high school diploma or who need to upskill. We fully expect that we're starting to see it already. We had waiting lists for both our workforce and our academic programs. Individuals without a high school diploma spend a lot longer time unemployed than individuals with a high school diploma, and particularly in down economies. So we're looking at we're doing environmental scans as well and looking at unemployment as a potential driver for our enrollment as well on the Career Academy. So, I mean, our IT program, we're offering A plus, Security plus. These are all free to DC residents. And if in typical boot camp options, if someone's looking to reskill or upskill in those programs, they're paying anywhere from $300 to $500 per course to do those programs. So we're seeing significant demand on that side. But unemployment and down economies drive enrollment in adult ed.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you. I was going to ask about the wait list. You said you do have wait lists.
We do have wait lists. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. And then just one last question. I read in the materials, and I think perhaps you all have progressed as it relates to your Ward 5 outreach. As a part of your presentation, you mentioned that you had a resolution from one of the Ward 5 ANCs. That has been since you spoke to staff here, right? That's a new development.
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Salmon.
Thank you, Academy of Hope team, for your very clear presentation and for the very impressive results you're achieving for your learners. Great job. My question is for Bijan, and it's about the board's standard for approving an enrollment ceiling increase. The increase requested here is large. It's an increase of 50% over 3 years, 200 additional students in school year 26-27, another 200 in 27-28, and 100 more in 28-29. To me, one of the most important things we need to look at in considering an increase of that size is the ability of the school to absorb all those additional students without compromising quality. Being able to continue to provide a high quality education to all these additional students. But I don't see that in our standards. I've looked at the standard.
Do we lose them?
Yeah.
I think they lost us.
I think so, yeah.
We are trying to get reconnected. Good evening, everyone. We are sorry for the technical difficulty. We are going to take a pause now and resume once we get things back up and running. Thanks for your patience.
we work through those technical difficulties. Do we still have the Academy of Hope? Okay, I see Tiffany. Great. Thank you, Academy of Hope. I know that Vice Chair Salmon, you were in the middle of a question that I think was directed to staff, so we'll pick up from there.
Yes, it was raising an issue about our standards for approving an enrollment ceiling increase and questioning whether the standards include consideration of the ability of a school to absorb the additional students without sacrificing quality. I want to be clear what I'm asking. I am satisfied that the school has addressed that issue in its presentation. I believe that they have a plan for if we approve the enrollment ceiling increase to implement it in a way that will not dilute quality. But my question is a policy question. When I look at our standards for approving an enrollment ceiling increase, I don't see that consideration there, and I think it should be. So am I missing something?
Actually, Vice Chair Salmon, I'll take that question. I think you are right that we don't necessarily ask the school to demonstrate their operational capacity in the application. We do ask those questions, but the application does speak to the operational readiness for growth, which is why we have conversations about conservative growth versus aggressive growth. I will also note that predominantly that is mostly taking into consideration the growth we typically see, which is at the K-12 space. So I do think the LEAs offering about their trajectory of growth and their readiness for growth and their interpretation of how conservative or not that is taken into consideration when staff ultimately makes a recommendation. But you are correct that we don't have a direct question on our application about the academic success of that growth, but we are asking the schools to consider their readiness to support students as they make the request for growth.
So I'd recommend that it be added in two different places. One, our articulation of the standards for approving an enrollment ceiling increase. When I read the materials and I looked at the standards, I didn't see anything that reflected the capacity of the school to absorb the additional students without compromising quality. In addition, that standard should be implemented by including questions in the application that tease that out. But I think we need to do both. I think our standards, that to me is a very important consideration that should be explicit and not something that just happens in the course of the back and forth with the school in the application process. But I want to emphasize that my substantive concern about the importance of that issue has been addressed by the presentation of Academy of Hope. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Salmon. Board Member Crucy?
Thank you, Academy of Hope team. Leicester, it's nice to see you again. Thank you for this presentation and the demand and your thoughtful plan for growth to be able to meet that growing demand is exciting and compelling. My question is around the workforce program. That sounds like where you're getting quite a bit of demand and interest over the next this 5-year period is also a period of time when there's quite a bit of changing external factors around us around technology that is going to impact workforce. We've heard such big statistics like within the next 5 years, by 2030, 50% of entry-level jobs will be gone. So my question is around not just being in responsive to changing workforce demands, but in anticipation of. I hear about the external, the environmental scans and acknowledgement of external dynamics. Those are lagging indicators. But and on the conversation earlier tonight around hiring and talent is one area of it, but also developing a whole program and knowing what programs need to be developed and what certifications are needed. Can you read me in a little bit into how you're thinking about that?
Sure. Well, we do labor market surveys. So we monitor labor market information. The launch of our current workforce platform, not platform, but offerings were based upon a labor market survey we did in 2021. We sunset some programs because the demand is not going to be there and the projected growth in that space. I mean, our IT program is one area where we've continued to add on to that program. And Dr. Durant can speak specifically. We now offer, when we started, we offered CompTIA, the entry level piece, and then the A+ certification. We've since added Security Plus because that's a demand area. I cannot sit here and say we are not talking about AI. We've been doing a lot of work with AI with our staff and our systems. We have a consultant that we're working with. Next phase of that is really what is it we need to add, particularly on the IT space? How do we help our learners understand AI and what's happening with entry-level jobs? There've been a number of reports, a McKinsey report about 3 years ago about these. So we are preparing for that. So we've been looking at that. We also have a curriculum person on staff who then moves into place to do the development, build on what we have. Our industry experts also help us stay abreast of where we need to go on these workforce programs. So we're looking at all of it. We're connected to all of those. So right now, our immediate response to folks becoming unemployed to where else we need to go. Medical records review, a number of other programs we've added over the years based upon projected growth.
Thank you for that. And I think my follow-up question is for my curiosity and kind of beyond the scope of this application here. I'm curious about kind of resources in the city for it sounds like you've got within the Academy of Hope community, your own expertise that you're thinking and looking across the landscape. Is there much across the city discourse to be able to work across communities of practice and learning for adult learners and workforce dynamics?
We are doing some work together. So there's the adult charter leaders group that meets monthly. We're all sharing, and we do a mini conference where it's peer sharing and support that happens in typically in November. We haven't set the date for that, but we identify as a group of adult charter leaders where we are interested and what are the things as a community, not school community, but community of adults serving schools that we all need to share. And so we do some peer learning, do an all-day mini conference that we all sort of support for the fall. We are also part of, there's small network. It's not a lot. We used to have the Adult and Family Literacy Coalition that sort of fell apart during COVID. We're trying to energize that. We've lost a lot of our non-profit partners or providers due to financial loss. So it's a small community, but I can say specifically the adult charter community comes together once a month and annually for at least 3 years now for a mini conference around peer sharing and peer learning. Professional associations like the Coalition of Adult Basic Educators, and then Pro Literacy or other places, but those are national groups.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation this evening. We've asked a lot of technical questions to understand your thinking behind the enrollment ceiling increase. Before I close us out, I wanted to just ask you, what are you excited about when you think about growing at this rate and pace? What excites you about this opportunity and having the chance to serve more students? What's exciting for you?
I think it's helping people to change their lives and being a resource to the community. It's really hard for us to tell people we don't have any more space and turn people away. And we know, and this is a consistent pattern, down economies, adult ed programs explode. And we know that will happen. We are projecting that. We've seen it time and time again. But we're excited about making opportunities available to adult learners. Dr. Durant talked a lot about, we have a graduate transition program that we launched 3 years ago now already, and we're on helping those learners to develop long-term plans and really stay on a course towards career and educational goals. We are now a CLEP testing center. We are excited. We'll start our first group of learners going through modern states and helping them to test for credit. So there's a lot that we're really excited about and deepening the experience for our learners and providing more opportunities, more seats to serve more.
Good. Michael, did you want to say something? I saw you reaching or were you just moving?
Oh no, I echo everything that Lacesta was saying. I just think that it's so rewarding to be able to just provide this opportunity to our learners. I think that just to be able to see and talk to the residents of all the wards and talk to them and just know that we're making a significant support impact on them, right? I think that they all come with so many great opportunities, and I just love to be able to see them blossom under just to be able to say I'm in a space where I can grow and I can really achieve everything that I'm setting myself out to do. I think that's just like so rewarding. And we put so many hours into into making sure that they really feel that sense of community within our organization and making sure that everyone understands that we really truly support them. That it's just when you see them moving forward and moving on and still coming back because they're committed, because they are so invested in what we're trying to do. They want to come back to volunteer. They want to come back to support others that's going through the process. That says a lot about the work that we're doing. And I just think that it's so invaluable. It's so invaluable to be able to have such a great program that DC offers to its residents and be able to have them get this chance. It's just it's sometimes I get lost for words. It's so amazing to be able to have this opportunity. And I thank you all so much for being the champions for adult education and really providing these learners with the opportunities that they truly, truly, truly deserve. I really appreciate it.
Great. And we appreciate the work that you all do. Holly Ann, you're with the board?
No.
No. Oh, staff.
She's staff. I really wanted, I was going to say something, Holly, and I'll let Holly Ann speak for herself, but one of the other things, the nerdy things that I nerd out on is our systems and our data. And Holly Ann has been really leading that with us as our new chief of staff. I forgot that she's known from another, I'll let Holly Ann speak for herself, but I'm super excited to have Holly Ann join the Academy of Hope team. Strengthening our reporting, our systems around data. The new wage data that we've been able to pull out has been led by Holly Ann and our performance evaluation team, learning more and taking that information to continuously improve the work that we're doing.
Well, welcome.
My sister has said it all. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Very short period of time, but being able to dig into all the data just has taught me a lot about the value and about the wonderful work that's been going on from Academy of Hope for years, which I've known about for years, but being able to see the tangible results of it has been truly exciting. And I'm looking forward to 500 more learners to support.
Well, good. The one thing that I do want to ask you all to think about in between now and when you come back for your final vote, and Hester, you said it a little bit. One of the things that happens when there is a downward turn in the economy is that adult education boosts. What that means for you all to get the infrastructure 1,500 is it means that you're making a lot of changes to your program to accommodate 1,500, meaning you're also going to then be fiscally responsible for those changes that you make, whether you have those 1,500 in seat or not. So I like to see you working through with staff, whether it's through the finance team or it's the school performance team. How are you also thinking about covering yourself during downtimes when adult education and the desire for improvement, self-improvement is not as high and is not as dire. Because I am believing we are going to come out of this as a city, as a country, et cetera. And so when that happens, what does that mean? Because now you have changed everything, whether that is your physical location, your operations, your systems, your staffing, et cetera, how you're thinking about it. So it's not something I want you to answer tonight, but it is something that I'd like to see come before this board before vote. So in terms of working through with staff.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
Dr. Walker Davis, before we close out, I think you want to say something.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted an opportunity to clarify. I misspoke in response to Vice Chairman Sandman's question. First, I just wanted to clarify that while our standard of approval in the policy doesn't speak to the operational capacity, it is actually included in the application. But I do hear your point and take the point of looking to align both the standard and the application, but just wanted to make sure that I cleared the record that it is in the application and the LEA did in fact respond to those questions in preparation for tonight. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Academy of Hope team, particularly for your patience during our downtime. Congratulations on the work that you are doing and your desire to serve more learners. And we will see you back here next month when we are up for a vote on your amendment. So thank you again. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thank you.
Next up, we have two requests from Howard University Middle PCS. I'll ask Starling Temp, Senior Specialist of Accountability in our School Performance Department, to join Bijan as they introduce the requests from Howard University Middle PCS. I would also like to invite Dr. Procope from the school to provide remarks regarding the request.
Hello again. Tonight, the board will hear from Howard University Middle School of Mathematics and Science Public Charter School regarding its request to amend its charter agreement. The school proposes relocating its facility from 405 Howard Place Northwest to 2065 Georgia Avenue Northwest. The new site is still on Howard University's campus with the University School of Education. Representatives from the school are available to answer the board's question.
Great. Good evening, Dr. Procope. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. I thought my board chair was here. Is he not present as a panelist?
Oh, is he also maybe under your name as well? Did he take, oh, I saw Wendell, you see Wendell Johns? Okay, we are promoting him now.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll start while he's coming.
Okay, great.
So I don't know how many years ago the Myrtilla Minor building located on Howard's campus, it's actually 2565 Georgia Avenue, had been set up for renovation. Initially to only house the School of Education. However, Dr. Frederick felt at the time that it would make the perfect place for co-location of the School of Education and the middle school. Howard University has been dedicated to the middle school since its inception. They chartered us. They continue to support us in the work that we do in helping the young people here in Washington, D.C. find their way to STEM careers. We've seen quite a bit of success as we frequently run into our former promotees walking here on Howard's campus as freshmen or sophomore seniors, all focused on STEM careers. Howard University secured the funding to renovate this historic building, and in 2023, wait a minute, this is 25, right? No, 2024 was able to open the building for the School of Education, where they moved in and had a grand opening. The work continued on the middle school side of the building. There was some additional work that had to be done in the sub-basement area levels for us. And that work will actually be totally complete mid-October. We were able to move in to the new facility, which is we measured about 75 yards from where we were this school year. We did make sure that we had additional contact with the community to let them know that this Ward 1 school was moving across campus a little bit closer to the Georgia Avenue side, making it easier for our children to get on and off the bus and get into the school and not have to cross campus and get confused with college students. We've had, since the beginning of the construction, Howard has been in close contact with the community because this is a historic building, and anytime you're doing any construction, and especially on a busy street like Georgia Avenue, you want to make sure that the community is aware of what's going on. And so we, in addition to that, have also been in close contact with Ben Williams, our Ward 1 state representative, and Rashida Brown, who's the vice chair of the ANC 1E, and to let them know that we're moving across campus and you may see a few more of our children on Georgia Avenue, but it's really not been that much of a change. Chair, you want to add anything?
Well, yes, I'm very excited with our move. And as I had stated when we visited with you back in May for our charter review, Howard remains excited about our presence on campus, and definitely were supportive when they decided to move us to the minor building. The building had been vacant for nearly 30 years. And this was an opportunity for them to bring this great asset and put it back in use for the university in a way that would improve our ability to provide our services to the students, but also to strengthen our relationship with the School of Education as we share the building with them. And that is obvious from their increased use of their student teaching with us. So we have more of their student teachers working with the middle school this year, and that's expected to continue going forward.
Right. Okay, thank you. I want to open it up to board members who have questions. Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Yes, thank you, Chair Wright. I just have a couple questions, and I think you just helped me understand. You touched on it a little bit. So you're moving from 405 to 2565. 2565, is that the building that was recently renovated?
Yes, ma'am.
That's where the renovation happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you left 405 strategically to be with the School of Education. That was
Correct.
sort of that was the master plan.
Yes, it was.
I got it. Okay, thank you for that. And I read in the material that you currently are in a lease with Howard, and I understand that there's a relationship there that sort of goes beyond what we would think as a typical lessor lessee. There's real support there, but it looks like you've got a traditional lease that runs through July 2027. And there is commentary here in our reading that says that upon mutual agreement, there will be an extension of that lease. I'm assuming that mutual agreement is going to happen. I just want you to say it.
Yes, ma'am. It has happened and it will continue to happen. Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Board Member Crucy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prokop and Board Chair Jones, for your presentation. This sounds very exciting. My question is one that I'm quite sure the community has already discussed, but I see the location is moving from kind of within the campus a little bit to what's described as a more convenient, more accessible location on Georgia Avenue. there's trade-offs to everything. So being on a busier street could also bring challenges. Has noise and otherwise. Is that something that the school community has discussed? Is that not something you're too worried about?
So it's interesting, when we were at 405, so it's the two noisiest times are arrival and dismissal for outside of the building. And to keep our young people from walking across campus, because if you've seen middle school students these days, they look like adults, and we didn't want to mix them up. So we walked around the 4th Street side all the way up and then up to Georgia Avenue. So this time, what makes this better is our children exit our building right onto Georgia Avenue. They cross the street depending on which way they're catching the D40 bus, either, I don't know east-west, I'm sorry, either towards Silver Spring or going any other direction. The bus stops are right there. And so from a safety perspective first, it's really advantageous to our 6th graders who are brand new to the school, and their parents are really excited because they see our adults there at the bus stop with them. For our older students who think they're adults and can walk all up and down Georgia Avenue, we walk down with them, and it's a lot easier. Honestly, it's easier for us because we just have one place to walk and we're able to monitor them that way. So as far as the impact on noise, not so much. We have, like most campuses in the country are becoming very green and not very friendly to cars. We have asked our parents who do drop students off to drop them off on Georgia Avenue. And interestingly enough, we've been able to not block traffic. So, and we created a terrible blockage on 4th Street when we were at 405. But in this particular instance, we're not. They drop them off and they move. Our students who take the bus, the DC bus, our young people who have special education needs, those with disabilities are able to come up on the bus onto the 6th Street side and drop off and just walk around. And so it hasn't been an issue at all.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Okay, I don't think you have any other questions on the facility. I know you have a second amendment in front of us, and I'm turning it over to Starling for that, to introduce that. Welcome, Starling.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Starling Temp. I am a senior specialist in the school performance department. Tonight, the board will again hear from Howard University Middle Public Charter School regarding its separate request to amend its charter goals and academic achievement expectations. The school proposes revising the target for its in-seat attendance goal, as the data needed to calculate the current target is no longer available. Additionally, the school proposes updating terminology in its state assessment goals and revising certain business rules to align with the calculations defined in the Aspire policy and technical guide. If approved, the changes will apply retroactively to school year 2024-25 and beyond. Of course, representatives from the school are available to answer your questions.
Dr. Prokop, is there anything you wanted to say about that before we ask questions?
Just before we go on, thanks to Starling and to Bijan, they've been great helps in getting all this done, and I do appreciate them. The work that they do does not get much clapping, so
This is true. Thank you. Clap for them. We appreciate that.
And these particular changes, particularly the ones that have to do with our academic targets, the language that we had in there referred to park. And so we're revising that to say state assessment, since BC Cape can't seem to keep his name straight. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. So because the state assessment names change frequently, this way we're just going to say state assessment in our goal. We think that we are excited about aligning with the targets of Aspire, because we feel that rigor and expectation, high expectations are exactly what we want for our children. So that's the change there. And then the last one was regarding in-seat attendance. And we felt that that our goal would be to either meet or exceed the in-seat attendance in the charter sector. So those are the schools that we want to be matched against pretty much for attendance. We have a very robust attendance program here, and everybody calls and makes sure that our children come to school. And I think that that's going to be a great measure for us to show that we are really taking attendance seriously, as you mentioned in the beginning of the meeting.
So I have one question for you about your goals. I understand the changes for the rest, but the last one that you just talked about, both IC and the DC Public Charter School Board have moved away from in-seat attendance as a measure. Why are you keeping that one? And what factors did you think about when you created that? And then did you consider any other ways to measure attendance?
We did, and Starling and I talked a lot about it. But in-seat attendance is what we're striving towards. I know that, when you look at chronic absenteeism and how it's on the rise, and, really convincing parents to actually, especially since COVID, to have their children come to school, we have put so much work into our in-seat attendance rate that's the one that we felt is going to best demonstrate how committed we are that our children are in their seats learning.
Okay, you sound pretty firm about that. So I don't think I have any follow-up on that. Are there any other questions for board members on this? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Bijan and Starling. Thank you, Dr. Prokop and Mr. Johns. We will see you all next month when we make the final vote on this. Appreciate all that you do for your students and look forward to coming to see the school.
And everybody else, please make sure you all come and see us.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right. As I shared earlier, Kingsman PCS has withdrawn its amendment request for future consideration. So this concludes the public hearing portion of our agenda. Because Kingsman PCS has withdrawn its amendment request for now, I'll ask for a motion to approve the September 15th, 2025 board meeting agenda amended to remove the Kingsman PCS item from the public hearing.
I move to approve the agenda for the September 15th, 2025 meeting of the board.
Second.
Secretary Adam Afanian, please call roll.
Chair Wright,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Crucy,
Aye.
Chair Wright, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you. So next on our agenda this evening is a presentation about academic, financial, and operational accountability. For that, I will yield the floor to our Chief School Performance Officer, Melody Sampson. And it looks like also to Kirsten. Come on in, Kirsten. I don't know your formal title, but we know who you are. So welcome both Melody and Kirsten.
And Will.
I think I also want to welcome Will Henderson as well. So Will, Kirsten, and Melody, come on in. Come on down. You're the next contestant on the Public Charter School Board. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, we will present From Oversight to Outcomes, Fall into Accountability. This presentation highlights the progress public charter schools are making and our oversight work. We'll celebrate some recent state assessment results and shed a light on 3 of our tools: Aspire, our academic evaluation system, financial oversight, and compliance. I'll make a note now that we're not going to go too deep in all of these areas, but we're excited to share with you tonight. Our role is to create the conditions that enable public charter schools to educate the students they serve well. We're responsible for monitoring, evaluating, reporting, and analyzing certain aspects of a public charter school in order to ensure their efficacy and achieve our overarching mission. Our oversight practices focus on 3 domains: academics, finance, and organization. Be sure to join us at a future board meeting where we'll take a closer look into specific parts of our authorizing work to see how practices shape school quality and student success. Let's start with academics. So this year's DC CAPE results show progress. DC CAPE is the state assessment for DC elementary, middle, and high schools, specifically grades 3 through 8 and 10. The next handful of slides summarize DC CAPE trends and reasons to celebrate among DC public charter schools. As Dr. Walker Davis shared during a public briefing with school leaders a few weeks ago, across the charter sector, we saw encouraging gains in proficiency on DC CAPE. This is a reflection of public charter school educators' focus, persistence, and commitment to students every day. For the first time since the pandemic, DC public charter schools posted gains in English language arts, or ELA, and math across all grade bands in nearly every student group. We saw particularly exciting gains among public charter high schools. All told, 67% of public charter campuses improved on DC CAPE in school year 24-25 compared to school year 23-24. Moreover, 11% of public charter campuses accomplished double-digit increases on the assessment over the past 2 school years. This slide reports ELA proficiency rates at the sector level and by grade bands and student groups. Over 32% of DC public charter students are meeting or exceeding expectations in English language arts on the state assessment. This is a 2.9 percentage point increase from school year 23-24. As you can see, all grade bands improved in ELA on DC CAPE. We recognize the dedication and hard work school leaders and teachers are pouring into emerging multilingual learners, or EML, across schools. At the same time, we're paying close attention to the 4.2 percentage point drop in ELA proficiency for this student group, a signal that we need to strengthen strategies to ensure every learner can thrive. To help with this important work, DC PCSB will continue hosting its EML professional learning community. This collaborative space is designed to enhance both the well-being and academic success of multilingual learners in DC public charter schools by allowing charter school staff to engage in equitable design thinking, develop leadership skills, and share best practices related to multilingual programming and instruction. The first meeting of the school year is on October 1st, and I would encourage you to consult the Wednesday bulletin to learn more. DC public charter schools demonstrated similar accomplishments in math on the state assessment. One difference here is that middle schoolers saw the most improvement in proficiency on DC CAPE from school year 23-24 to school year 24-25. Let's shift to the next slide to see a breakdown by grade band and student group. All 3 grade bands, 3 through 6, 6 through 8, and high school, increased math proficiency rates. Most student groups did too, though again, emerging multilingual learners did not. Half of DC public charter schools improved DC CAPE outcomes in both ELA and math. The next 4 slides highlight specific public charter schools and campuses that had particularly successful gains on the state assessment. Early Childhood Academy Public Charter School Friendship Public Charter School, Chamberlain Elementary, Mundo Verde Public Charter School, Caliocho, and Washington Latin Public Charter School Upper all achieved double-digit gains in ELA and math on DC Cape when comparing school year 24-25 outcomes to school year 23-24 outcomes. The campuses on this slide also earned double-digit gains in specifically ELA, Center City Public Charter School Noma, DC Prep Public Charter School Benning Elementary, Friendship Public Charter School Ideal Elementary, KIPP DC College Prep Public Charter School, Lamb Public Charter School, Learn DC Public Charter School, and Social Justice Public Charter School. The schools on this slide gained at least 10 percentage points in math proficiency from the previous school year, specifically DC Prep Public Charter School Edgewood Elementary, DC Scholars Public Charter School, Friendship Public Charter School Woodridge Middle, KIPP DC Lead Public Charter School, and Lee Montessori Public Charter School East End. Schools or campuses shown on the next two slides gained at least 5 percentage points in proficiency in both math and ELA. Let's start from the top. Achievement Prep Public Charter School, Center City Public Charter School, Petworth, DC Prep Public Charter School, Anacostia Elementary, DC International School, DC Scholars Public Charter School, E.L. Haynes Public Charter School Elementary, along with Friendship Public Charter School Southeast Middle, Goodwill Excel Public Charter School, KIPP DC College Public Charter School, Lee Montessori East End, and Social Justice Public Charter School. So I want us to transition to the Aspire system. It's important to make the connection between the state assessment and our academic evaluation system. Gains on DC Cape absolutely have a direct influence on Aspire outcomes. So I'll turn it over to Kirsten James, DC PCSB's Director of School Quality and Accountability, to elaborate.
Thank you, Melody. Aspire is our academic evaluation system. It's about making sure every student, especially those from communities that have too often been left behind, has access to an excellent school. The system shows us where gaps exist, focuses on student groups, and values the unique missions many schools bring to our city. How will it be used? DC PCSB will use Aspire to guide oversight decisions. We want school leaders to use it to pinpoint where improvement is needed and where success should be amplified. And we hope families and communities use it to understand how well schools are serving their students. At its core, Aspire asks 4 big questions. Are students growing? Are they achieving relevant academic benchmarks? Are they engaged? And is the school delivering on its mission? The Aspire system has 5 frameworks based on students served and programs offered, and nearly every school will be evaluated in 4 categories. School progress measures how well schools are helping students grow academically, which is especially important as students continue to recover academically from the pandemic. School achievement measures how well schools prepare students to meet college and career readiness benchmarks and for post-secondary opportunities. School environment provides information about how well schools are engaging their students and measures non-academic factors that contribute to school quality and directly impact student outcomes. School-specific performance measures how well schools are impacting student outcomes related to their unique missions, designs, or programs. Although the categories are consistent across the Aspire system, each framework has a different combination of measures within each category that are most relevant to the grades and students served, and each measure has a unique number of points possible. A quick point of clarification, the school-specific performance category is not part of the alternative accountability framework. Another important part of Aspire is the addition of school-specific performance measures, or SSPMs. These recognize that schools often have unique missions or program designs that aren't fully captured by standard accountability metrics. DC PCSB, LEA leaders, and LEA board chairs collectively approved 162 SSPMs across the sector. Most schools now have 2 measures, while some schools with multiple frameworks may have up to 8. Schools took different approaches to developing their measures. Some reallocated existing Aspire measures, some chose from the SSPM bank, others repurposed their charter goals, and some created unique measures tailored to their mission. Schools will begin implementing their SSPMs this year, school year 25-26. Next year, school year 26-27, we'll publish Aspire results that reflect those new SSPMs. The goal is simple: to ensure that our academic evaluation system values not just core academics, but also the distinct ways schools impact student outcomes. Aspire scores are calculated by dividing the sum of the points the school earned across all applicable measures by the total points available in that school's Aspire framework. Each summative score is aligned to one of 5 levels, from a level 1, exemplary performance, to level 5, unsatisfactory performance. These levels carry real implications for replication, expansion, intervention, or even revocation. Another note of clarification: schools eligible to be evaluated by the Alternative Accountability Framework do not get an Aspire score. Last year's Aspire results show a positive trajectory. 22 campuses earned level 1, representing every ward and every framework. Over 80% of campuses scored satisfactory or better, and nearly 1/3 of schools improved at least one level, showing great showing that accountability plus support drives progress. Looking ahead, schools have until April to confirm their adoption of Aspire. Our goal is to maintain a clear, aligned, and student-centered path to success across the sector. Aspire aligns with our expectations, promotes continuous improvement, increases transparency through the public reporting, and reduces the burden on school teams. Aspire unites our accountability, engagement, and data strategies into a clear vision. Starting this year, the first results will be shared publicly, giving us a baseline. This helps chart the charter sector's path forward, showing where we're making progress and where schools, families, and the community can work together to drive improvement.
Strong academics rely on strong financial health. As an authorizer, we set and uphold rigorous financial oversight standards. The National Association of Charter School Authorizers, or NACSA, is an independent voice for charter school policy. Their recommended best practices are foundational to DCPCSB's financial oversight work. This is based on the principles and standards for quality charter school authorizing derived from NACSA's vast experience, research, and work supporting charter authorizers across the country. And some of the best practices they recommend we follow, which include requiring schools to conduct financial audits through an independent auditor, reviewing contracts over a certain dollar amount, and weaving financial oversight into annual reports and review and renewal evaluations and decisions. Now, I'll dive into how our different partners play a role in monitoring the financial health of our schools and ensure their economic viability. It's important to note that while there are different players, each has an important but unique role. At PCSB, we set sector-wide financial targets, publicly report on school finances, monitor schools, and provide support or interventions when needed. Each school's board of trustees holds ultimate fiduciary responsibility. They set financial goals, review budgets, and regularly discuss finances in public meetings, maintaining ongoing communication with school leadership. School leaders manage day-to-day finances, develop and maintain accounting controls, draft budgets for board approval, and meet reporting requirements from OSSE and grantors. They also post required financial documents online. Families and community members play an important role as well. That's why we make school financial information publicly accessible through our Transparency Hub, and starting this year on each school's website on their public information page. On this slide, I want to give an overview of our approach to financial oversight. There are 5 main elements that guide our work, which you can explore in more detail in our document and data review, reporting, and accountability tools. When we look closely at PCSB's oversight, several areas stand out. A large portion of our work happens through document review, where we carefully examine budgets, financial statements, and other financial documents. We are also responsible for reporting. We dig into specific metrics, analyze trends, and conduct risk assessments to identify areas that may need additional attention. Finally, there's engagement. Our school finance team works closely with each school's leadership and board, ensuring clear communication, guidance, and support to maintain financial health and accountability across all schools. We use several tools like the Financial Analysis Report, or the FAR, our monitoring list, and financial corrective action plans to identify risks and support schools in addressing them. Depending on the severity of our concerns, timelines can vary, but our goal is always the same: protect students and ensure responsible stewardship of public funds.
Public charter schools are responsible for meeting key legal and operational requirements. To support public charter schools, DC PCSB monitors compliance across key areas, including health and safety and governance, as outlined in the DC School Reform Act. This monitoring is called the Annual Compliance Review, and it ensures that schools are meeting expectations, operating responsibly, and maintaining transparency with families and the public. Think of it as a system of checks and supports to help schools succeed while protecting students and the community. We send a report to schools giving a status update of how well they've met expectations. 100% of LEAs were compliant by the end of school year 24-25.
So thank you, team, for sharing all of the work that we do with respect to oversight. I wanted to give the board a sense of what you might expect next year. So next slide, please. We have prioritized for this school year, in the midst of all of the work that we're doing, our reviews and renewals, which are coming up soon. As the board knows, we have several schools that are up for review and renewal this year. As you heard quite extensively, we are implementing Aspire, and we look forward to our first public reporting on our accountability system this spring. And we are in the midst of looking at the policies that we have before us and which of those need to be updated, and the extent to which we will examine the enforcement of all of our policies. I also want to note that we are going to be engaging in a work around where we fit in the larger landscape of education decision-making. PCSB has a specific role to play with respect to charter oversight and monitoring and evaluation, and we partner with many others in the ecosystem to ensure that our schools are supported. And all of this is consistent with the best practices in authorizing, and we will certainly be paying attention to our own authorizer model, in particular, our organizational capacity, our staff capacity, and our ability to be responsive to the moment that we find ourselves, as well as preparing for the evolution that we know continues in the education space. So I'm very excited that these are the 5 areas that we are going to be leaning in on. And much of what you've heard from my team here is the oversight model and strategies that will support us in traveling this roadmap. So I appreciate the team for sharing that information, and certainly, board, we can answer some initial questions that you may have.
Thank you, team, for your presentation and for your sharing this with us and giving this roadmap in front. I do know we have some questions. I'm going to start with Board Member Crucy first.
Thank you so much for this. This is exciting to see. It's very exciting to see that we'll have the first reporting on Aspire this coming spring. I like the metaphor of the road because this is all a journey. My question is around the Aspire bit. At this point, it sounds like LEAs have until April to adopt. At this point, do we know what percentage of LEAs have adopted Aspire? Is that something that we expect, kind of like application deadlines a lot at the end?
Yeah, so we have rolling deadlines that start now through April 1. Right now, we are hopeful that we'll have maybe 2 LEAs come before the board during the October board meeting asking to adopt Aspire as their charter goals. Otherwise, our teammate Starling Timp, who engaged with you earlier tonight, has started to have one-on-ones with schools that are interested in either adopting Aspire as their charter goals or negotiating custom goals. So lots of schools are in the exploratory phase right now, trying to understand what their options are. And school leaders are absolutely conferring with their board to understand and understand Aspire and the implications of using it as charter goals. So we are expecting lots more conversation for the remainder of this fall, winter, and spring.
May I ask a follow-up question? It was exciting to see the breakout of LEAs with exemplary growth from this past year. So that's the first part of the presentation this evening. Have we done a crosswalk of those that may have had reviews over the last year or so? The timing of these things, of perhaps those that may have had conditions with, of course, when state testing happened, are not totally aligned, so it's not clear what's cause and effect, but I'm mostly curious.
We've definitely done some preliminary analysis. Of course, it's really important that we look at all of the metrics that come out of the school year 24-25. And that data, it's coming soon. We will soon be looking at the DC school report card outcomes that come out of the state education office as well. So we are beginning to see those outcomes trickle in, and we'll, in short order, be able to know definitively whether the schools that were subject to conditions at the end of last school year have actually met those conditions. I'll shout out Social Justice Public Charter School in particular. They popped up twice on tonight's presentation because of the growth that they saw in their state assessment performance.
That's right. Thank you. And the breakout at the LEA level was interesting. What about further breakout of subgroup data and subgroup performance?
I'll take it, seeing that. I think one of the areas that we're hopeful for is that subgroup performance. In particular, we are waiting on growth data to confirm the trends that we might be seeing with proficiency gains. And I think that's where we're going to see the most informative information for our student groups. So we don't yet have that information, but that will, once we get the growth data, that will confirm what we want to see for student groups. So I can't say much more about that just yet. Maybe Kirsten has more to add. But while I do have the mic, I did want to just share that you may still see Aspire activity in the months to come in terms of adoption of our school-specific measures. So even if a school does not adopt Aspire as its goals just yet, or are waiting till April 1, we are looking forward to schools to formally including the school-specific measures. And so you may see that as a recurring item on our board agenda to ensure that those are in place for next year.
And related to those, will there be an opportunity for the board and public to hear this is a very innovative approach that we're taking, and will we be able to give kind of a presentation on the full range and trends that we're observing from that and what we're learning from it?
We would welcome an opportunity to share what we've learned from this process. And I will note that we entered this process knowing that we would learn. And I believe even with this first iteration of school-specific measures, we're hoping that as we continue to implement, we'll learn more. So we would be very excited to come back and tell you what we've learned.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Thank you, Chair Wright. I just have a couple questions. One of them is on the school specific performance measures that you talked about, Kirsten. You said one of the things that LEAs, or one of the options that LEAs had, was to reallocate measures. What does that mean?
So the school-specific performance measures, or school-specific performance category, has 2 measures, 5 points each. And Because we have standard measures in the Aspire system, there are some schools that show up really well in those areas, and they are a direct reflection of the hard work that they're doing and directly aligned to their mission or program. And so they're able to reallocate those 5 points to a measure that they show up really strong in. And so instead of negotiating an entirely new measure, a school that is very strong in college and career acceptance, for example, might just say, you know what, these 5 extra points, I want to go to that area because we usually have 100% college and career acceptance, and that's something we do really well. And so they can just elect to use a measure that already exists in Aspire and shift those 5 points to that measure.
Got it. It sounds like also giving them some flexibility and allowing them to highlight, like you said, where they are performing well.
Absolutely. And many of our schools have really unique missions, and others have, college preparatory missions where things that are academic measures are a direct reflection of the work that they do. And so it wasn't necessary, for lack of a better word, for them to negotiate an entirely new measure to be evaluated under.
Got it. There was a slide that had the Aspire levels 1 through 5, and for 4 and 5, I noted that the commentary beside both of those levels were that at 4 and 5, there's no ability to replicate, and then there's the potential of a QSR, right? Could you talk about what might also look like differentiation between those 2 levels for an LEA? Because I would imagine there is some differentiation between 4 and 5.
Absolutely. So for level 4, a school may be subject to a QSR. It's not a guarantee. And we would likely, as staff and our leadership, meet directly with the school and their leaders and their board to discuss the trajectory of the school's performance. Whereas for level 5, a school could be a candidate for revocation. They will definitely have an additional QSR. They will definitely have a meeting with their board and school leadership and our leadership to discuss the school's performance. And again, could be a candidate for revocation to be discussed further.
Got it. So for 4, maybe QSR. For 5, absolutely plus.
Plus.
Got it. Got it.
Increased
Thank you.
oversight. Yes.
Thank you. And then my last question, Dr. Walker Davis, was for you. In the priorities you highlighted that you would be focusing on our role in the charter landscape. I'm curious what that might look like in terms of a focus, particularly this year.
Thank you for the question. I think that would show up in a number of ways. One is more of these conversations and public presentations around what our oversight is, and in some respects, what our oversight isn't. I believe it is also in making sure that we're clear, particularly with charter leaders, what PCSB and who are our partners in the ecosystem to support schools, mainly in the area of direct services and improvement. There are other partners who are able to do that work. I believe it is also clarifying, as PCSB is exercising its oversight and as partners are navigating the system, what does that look like in real time and real action, particularly in areas around advocacy, in areas around funding, in areas around policy in general, both the policies that we implement, but the policies that we're often in a position of reacting to as well. So it is making sure that there's clarity on what you can expect from PCSB, both in terms of oversight and partnership, and who are the other players in our ecosystem that are also equally working toward charter student success.
Thank you. And Chair Wright, can I ask one more? Yeah. Bill, I have a good idea of this, but I think it may be helpful for you to talk about. One of the things that you mentioned was that PCSB reports out, right? So obviously we receive in financial reports, we receive in data and make risk assessments. But one of your bullets on your slide also said that we're responsible for reporting out. talk about what those reports are and what that looks like from a finance perspective.
Sure. Maybe we can, I'm not sure the slide number, but there are a couple of
Yeah,
slides
I didn't
back.
write it down.
But yes, thanks, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. Our core financial reporting document is the FAR, the Financial Analysis Report. Each of our schools has a page in the FAR that reflects their financial status, their financial performance over the course of the given school year. Those are often, or those are always looking back because we base the data on audited financials. Of course, as you know, we look at unaudited financials constantly throughout the year and work closely with our LEAs to establish and clear boundaries for what immediate financial health is. And at the end of the day, the evaluation that we're responsible for that we put out in the FAR is based on audited financials. And so the independent auditors that our schools hire, that PCSB approves, are expected to provide individual audits and independent audits for our schools. So the FAR is the annual report that shares out for all of our schools. The more routine place that a school that is facing challenges is going to show up would be reported out on the monitoring list, and that helps offer some transparency to the public about schools that are working on some more specifically identified areas to move back into a financially sound place.
Board Member Cruci, I think you had a follow-up.
Yes, I actually, could we go back to the slide with the road? I just want to applaud the staff. I just really appreciate this overview, this whole exercise that doesn't necessarily conclude in, but the fifth over here in the lower right-hand corner of our role in the charter landscape. This is just, it's so important. It's can be confusing for those who are not familiar with how charter schools work, of what the role of the authorizer is. And it's easy to take for granted that we in this space and participating virtually are more familiar with it because we've come together, whether monthly or when there needs to be a matter that comes before the board. But for the broader education community and the broader city may not really understand what PCSB does and how we are not a school board. We're not an elected school board. This is what an authorizer does, and this is what makes charter schools unique. So this oversight and accountability is so unique to the system of choice that this city created some 30 years ago. And it requires kind of continuous reminders. And then this exercise up here of the policy revisions, we're modeling that, yes, there are policies that we need to review and revisit. We have a lot of policies here as an agency. So thank you, Chair Wright and Dr. Walker Davis and team. This is really, really important work, and I'm looking forward to what we have before us. Thank you.
Staying on this slide, I appreciate setting out the priorities. I know we talk a lot about it internally. Given the lessons from last year's review cycle, particularly around the complexity of implementing conditions, this was our first time doing this coming out of COVID, and specifically the concerns that we heard from varied stakeholders regarding timeline. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but how are we thinking about improving the review and renewal process this year, and what will feel different for schools?
Sure. I'll start, and if I miss anything, I'll ask my team to join in. So first, we did have a lot of lessons about the review and renewal cycle last year. I will say this is a reflective organization, so we're always looking at what we've learned from that process. Specifically, timing is an issue, was an issue that was raised in our cycle. It will be earlier than it was in the past. So that is one major change. We have also already issued the guidance that we would typically issue prior to a review and renewal for those schools who are under review, and they are also posted on our website. And you will see some strategic shifts in that guidance. One is we've not only allowed for clarity about the process, as we normally do between reviews and renewals, we've received feedback about the opportunity for schools to provide a rebuttal, if you will, or a response to our staff recommendation and report. And so there is an opportunity in this cycle, not only to have the report from our PCSB staff, but for schools to offer a response and add that to the conversation as the board is considering our recommendations. I think we have impressed upon our schools, I will try to do so as we meet with them, the difference between what is discretionary at review and what is not at renewal, to make a distinction about those two processes. And our commitment is to ensure that there is opportunities for schools to fully understand their performance from PCSB staff, to have a slightly longer time to review their report prior to it being published. And so we've made some tweaks to the process that I think is responsive to some of the critique that we heard.
And then when we have our first 30-year school coming up for renewal, what does this milestone signify for the sector? And how should it inform our approach to reviews and renewals going forward? 30 years, it's a long time.
Well, I'll first start by saying I have excitement that we are getting to the 30-year mark, and that we have been pretty disciplined as an authorizer to have a robust review and renewal process and to have past practices to look back on. We haven't made any determinations regarding that school just yet, but I do believe that we have the tools and the processes and the capacity to do a robust review of that school that leads to consideration of its renewal. And I would be excited for us to be, quite frankly, a model across the country of what effective oversight looks like, such that we are having a conversation with the school 30 years into its existence and able to fully, review that school. I don't know if there's anything that my team wants to add about what we're looking forward to. None of us have done a 30-year renewal. And so I think we're all looking forward to that moment. And I feel confident that we have the tools in place to be able to do that effectively.
The next thing that I want to just make sure we understand, and I know, again, we'll talk a bit more about it, but I think a lot of times there's confusion for schools that, whether it's from the public or the schools themselves that are up for review or renewal, that somehow the steps that they are taking now to respond or to improve or to continue excelling are things that should be taken into consideration. But reviews and renewals are really retrospective and review in action, not even really, they are retrospective. So what does that mean when we start to think about engaging? I think this year we have 16, last year we had 20. This year we've got 16 schools. What does that mean in terms of rigorous accountability, but yet the importance of giving schools clarity and predictability and giving the public that?
I'll ask Melody to start.
Chair Wright, that's a really important note, and it is why transparent conversations need to happen early with school leaders, school leadership on staff, as well as the board of a school. We have to be in regular communication about how a school is performing on all three fronts that we've summarized tonight: academics, operations, compliance, and finance. All of those domains matter when it comes to a high-stakes charter review or renewal. And so it's really important that the school staff and that the school's board of trustees is aware of how PCSB is evaluating that school and the potential consequences for not meeting the standard for charter review, charter continuance, or charter renewal. So that conversation is really important. The work of just the annual reporting that PCSB does, whether that is an internal LEA mid-year update that we send to school leaders in March that gives them a snapshot of how their school is performing to date. The noisier Aspire reporting that we're looking forward to doing at the top of the calendar year in January, February. All of the information that we produce on a cycle is important and worthwhile to engage in. And we are looking forward to a staff supporting school leaders and understanding the reporting that we do, helping them think about the questioning that they need, the interrogation that they need to do with each other, so they can be prepared for the high stakes conversation and demonstrate across the 5-year period how they have strategized to improve student outcomes, to ensure compliance, to ensure that they are economically viable and managing their money well. The real story should be that 5-year period, and then just a sliver of what they are looking forward to doing instead of the focus being exclusively on what's forward.
The only thing that I would add, Chair, is that yes, PCSB is committed to ensuring that we are being transparent with the schools about their performance. And I want to underscore that there is a responsibility on the schools and to understand its performance and to understand how it is going to be evaluated. And so when I think about what schools should expect, annually we produce the guidance regarding review and renewal. So it is not something that a school should wait until they're up for review. They should be paying attention to that guidance throughout the review cycle to see what are the parts that remain the same, what might be shifts for that particular year. Lastly, I'll say on this point, going back to my comment around our role in the sector, there is opportunity also for our partners to be a part of supporting schools, both in the understanding of their data, in the supports that they might need to improve throughout the review cycle. And so I think this is an area when I think about clarifying our role, we ultimately are required by the School Reform Act to make decisions at the point of review or renewal for a school, but the journey to get to that point is not one that is just on the school or PCSB. I think it's an opportunity for all of us in the sector to be supportive because our outcome is student success, improved student success, school improvement. Ultimately, we are required by law to make some decisions, but the outcome that we're all collectively looking for is quality education and student success. And our partners in the ecosystem have a role to play in that as well.
So my last question, I'm glad we're acknowledging the importance of reviewing our policies overall, right? We are about to review our 30-year-old school, and very proud that we're engaging NACSA in that work as an objective kind of third eye or perspective. But are there particular policies we already know we want to prioritize, excuse me, for review in the near term?
Thank you for that question. So I too am excited about having the objective eye of NACSA, the National Association for Charter School Authorizers, because I believe that they can give us a lens not only about what is best practice among authorizers, but what makes sense in the context of DC, given our governing statute. So I am looking forward to that. In terms of what we are prioritizing, one thing that we have mentioned here at the board meeting before, and I want to reiterate again, we committed to updating our attendance and truancy policy during the school year. And so we are taking the time to get LEA feedback to look at the data that we have to develop a new attendance and truancy policy that would be effective for next school year. So that is one of our priorities. We also spent some time examining the concept, improving our criteria and policies and practices associated with acquisition. And we want to bring forward for the board's consideration a policy on mergers and acquisitions. And you will see us coming to the board in the next few weeks to have further conversation about that. We'll also be looking over during this school year at our expansion policy. Typically, schools have come to us like this evening to request an enrollment ceiling increase or grade level expansion. And so we're looking to bring those policies current. And I think that those are three that I wanted to highlight. I may have missed one, so if I did, staff, please let me know. Oh, last I will say is we've been discussing financial oversight over the last few months, and so we will be coming back at some point with a financial recommendation for a financial oversight policy and also further discussion about guidance that we may be issuing to our schools along the way.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from other board members? Okay. Well, I know that on behalf of the board, we appreciate these type of in-depth analysis about our work and insight into the work that you all do every single day and work so diligently at. So thank you for giving us this clear roadmap. And just want to remind those who are watching that this presentation is available as part of our meeting information. And I guess I would say last, Melody, if to Dr. Walker Davis, and I'm speaking specifically to LEAs that may be on here, if there are schools who might not be up for review this year, but maybe next year or the year after, particularly with Aspire implementation and state assessment changes happening, who could they reach out to begin to have some preliminary early conversations to know, am I on track? What should I be looking at? And I think when I think about this, I think specifically for some of our smaller LEAs who are just head down and trying to get the school running every day. They might not have a home office or a data team or a data analyst. Who on the team could they talk to, and where do we go?
It's never too early to start having a conversation about your charter goals performance. I would welcome LEA leaders to engage with anyone from the school quality and accountability team, specifically Gino Lucchese, who manages the charter review and renewal process. Starling Timp, who is the goals specialist. She is the person who is monitoring progress on goal attainment for each LEA. Kirsten and I are also the right people to reach out to. I'd be happy to have a conversation with a school leader, help them understand the charter goals policy pathways, because that is still relevant and will be until we are out of the woods and fully implementing Aspire as our accountability system. So you've got 4 knowledgeable people who are ready to answer questions and help explain the policies and how we apply them.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no more questions, thank you all for being here this evening and for this presentation. For our next agenda item, I yield the floor to Treasurer Carissa Stanley Beatty.
Thank you, Chair Wright. DCPCSB is responsible for monitoring and evaluating the financial health of every public charter LEA. This standing financial oversight report during our monthly board meeting allows us to continue to demonstrate our commitment to transparency to families, LEAs, and the sector. It's also an opportunity for board discussion, questions, or important points of clarification on any of our financial oversight work. With that, I will turn it over to Will Henderson, our Chief Operating Officer, for this month's financial update.
Thanks, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. As we've done in the past, we spend a moment or two, depending on the time of the year, talking about our financial oversight. For today, for the month of September, not surprisingly, at the beginning of a school year, we don't have a large amount of updates. The Finance Committee has not met since our last board meeting, but we are scheduled to meet later this week, in fact, on Wednesday. We've not made any changes to our financial monitoring list since you last heard from me, nor have we issued any citations of fiscal concerns since the August meeting. But we had an opportunity to share some of our thoughts and remind the community about our oversight practices a little bit earlier tonight. So we look forward to ongoing conversation and engagement with you all and with our LEAs in the coming season regarding financial oversight.
Dr. Walker Davis mentioned that the financial policy may be one that we may be looking at in terms of updates or just in general sort of elevating it and looking at things that we could improve, make better. During that process, there will obviously be socialization with anything that we may look at changing to the LEA community. Do you want to talk just a little bit about that? I know the timeline is to be discussed further on Wednesday, but perhaps as you're thinking about what it will look like to put it out to the sector and get feedback, that you may have some thoughts on that now.
Thanks. Yes, absolutely. We have already begun engaging with a lot of different folks about this topic. Financial, as you have made very clear in your service here, Treasurer Stanley Beatty, the oversight work that we have an obligation, not just an opportunity to do here at DCPCSB, is critical to the success of our LEAs and therefore a direct impact on the students that they serve. So we have been engaging with our school leaders, and we continue to do that more into the fall. We have engaged with various experts outside of the sector, comparing what financial oversight looks like in other high-performing districts and states. And they've looked at schools that have had challenging experiences here in the district. Charter schools have had challenging experiences in the district. Sometimes schools they end up closing because of those challenges, but at other times they come through those challenges, and oftentimes that is due to the oversight work that DCPCSB has been able to provide from them. So we want to utilize those experiences with those and those lessons learned to create a little bit more structure for the financial oversight work that we do today. As Dr. Walker Davis mentioned earlier, we're a reflective organization, and we have lessons learned from experiences that we've just had this past school year or the last couple of years. We are implementing those as we speak and incorporating new tools that provide ongoing transparency to the sector, but we're also working to make sure that our schools know what those are. When I was leading the financial work of an LEA here in the district, it was important for me to know what I was moving towards, what targets I needed to hit to provide confidence to the PCSB that I was running a healthy school, so that I and the staff that I worked with could focus our mental energy on serving our students, which of course is the desire. So we're already doing a lot of engagement with school leaders, former school leaders, experts in and out of DC as well, to make sure that both the guidelines that we put in place that help us with the on-the-ground work support the pursuit of financial health, and therefore the pursuit of focusing our energy on students, and as well as put the right level of structure in place for any future policy that comes to fruition.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I think it's so critical, Chair Wright and the board, for us to make sure that we're clear about the work that we're doing and the work that's ongoing on a daily basis. I would sort of echo what Will just said in terms of any financial policy shifts or changes that are proposed. I want to be clear that those would be rooted and grounded in best practices, as Will talked about, from across the country, with experts informing those decisions. It would also be rooted and grounded in what we've learned and what we know to be true for us as an organization and for our LEAs that are specifically in DC. And then it'll also be rooted and grounded in feedback from the sector. I think those three things are critically important when you're looking at any policy and potentially making shifts to it. So I look forward to the work to come.
As do I.
Agreed, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. Thank you, Will, for joining this discussion. Board members, before we get ready to close out our meeting, I want to say to our schools and to our students to congratulate you on the progress that was made on DC Cape. I know that it is not easy work, and we applaud you. We see the work that you're putting in and the growth that has taken place within your schools. Again, shout out to those schools that were named for your double-digit growth, your growth in both subject areas. This is not easy. We recognize that. And so just want to applaud you and thank you. And please make sure that you also could send this congratulations on to your student population and to the families who are in this work with you. All right, board members. Next, we will vote on the consent calendar. Would any board member like to remove an item from the calendar for further discussion or state a recusal for the record? Seeing none, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
I move to approve all items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Secretary, will you call roll, please?
Chair Wright,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Crucy,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, Chair.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next, I'll note the board is entering into the record the newly approved applications for schools that want to implement the equitable access preference in the lottery. Those two LEAs are Maya Angelou Public Charter School High School and Mary McLeod Bethune Public Charter School. All right. Is there any new business? All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote to adjourn tonight's meeting. Secretary?
Chair Wright.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion. I apologize.
I move to adjourn the September 15th, 2025 board meeting.
I second. Chair Wright,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Crucy,
Aye.
and Chair, I'm an aye as well.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you for your patience during our technical difficulties. Have a good night and be safe. Bye-bye.